So. All right, we'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you begin with your roll call, please?
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Here.
Commissioner Banton.
Present.
Commissioner Bradley.
Present.
Commissioner Fowler.
Present.
Commissioner Garmendia.
Present.
Commissioner Hubman.
Present.
Commissioner Keung.
Present.
Commissioner Miller.
Present.
Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Chair Boaz.
Present. All right.
And you have a quorum of 10.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, we have one order of business tonight, which is the strategic land use plan update. After the presentation, as I mentioned earlier, we will have a public hearing. So please either post your name if you're online in the chat or go ahead and sign up at the list at the desk. You'll have a certain amount of time. Sorry. I think I've called the meeting to order, but Paul mentioned that I should make sure that I've done that.
No.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So with all of that as an introduction, but back to the, if you're on the phone, please do, when we call your name, you'll have to hit #6 to unmute and we'll be able to hear you. We'll go through this again when we get into the public meeting. So we do have the next order of business is to approve the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. You call the roll, please.
Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard.
Aye.
Commissioner Banton.
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley.
Aye.
Commissioner Fowler.
Aye.
Commissioner Garmendia.
Aye.
Commissioner Keung.
Aye.
Commissioner Hubman.
Aye.
Commissioner Sterling.
Aye.
Miller. Commissioner Williams. Commissioner Williams.
Say aye.
Chair Boaz.
Aye.
And the motion passes with all present voting aye.
Excellent. All right, we're going to begin with a presentation from the planning team. Miriam will start us off and then hand it off to the other member of the team.
Yeah, great. Good evening, Chairwoman Boaz and members of the commission. My name is Miriam Keller, City Planning Executive for General Planning and Design at the Planning and Urban Design Agency. And this evening, I'll be starting, but several of us will be presenting the 2025 Strategic Land Use Plan update. This item, for those in the audience, will have a public hearing. You'll know when we get there, but if you would like to speak, as the chair mentioned, please sign up either in person at the sign-in table or in the chat to indicate that you would like to participate. So we're going to go through a presentation here. The first piece will be, of course, a presentation of the plan and the planning process. We had a kind of formal noticed period to accept written comment, and we'll be providing a summary of those written comments, as well as our recommended changes based on those comments. I note that all comments in their full form provided by the deadline at the end of the day yesterday have been shared with the commission. And then we'll have the public hearing before entering into questions and discussion with commissioners. So this will be quite a bit of review, both for commissioners and for many people in the audience who have actually been with us at many strategic land use plan meetings and workshops. But I think it's important to kind of take a step back and remind ourselves what the strategic land use plan is in the context of the city, planning law, zoning, and so on. So the strategic land use plan is the land use element of the city's comprehensive plan. And what that means is that, number one, it is a state legal requirement that we have such a plan, a land use plan for guiding zoning policy and redevelopment plans and other formal decisions related to land use. But more than that, it's also kind of a key tool for how we as a city express our goals and aspirations for kind of the physical change of our built environment and all of the ways that that impacts the community. Third, it is also a blueprint for the work of holistically updating our zoning code. That is going to be a separate kind of next process, the full update of the zoning code. But know that this strategic land use plan has kind of been built with that work in mind, so that this can be a helpful tool for us in that process, which will be a bit more technical, and it's really about the detailed regulations. But the strategic land use plan offers us a blueprint for that work. And this strategic land use plan is a land use specific vision that complements other policy and planning documents. So a couple of things to know about a couple of elements of our comprehensive plan that are also in development currently in coordination with the SLOOP, or strategic land use plan, are the citywide transportation and mobility plan. We actually do not have one of those at the moment. And Scott, in partnership with an interdisciplinary planning team at the city and a consulting team, is in the process of developing this plan. And we are also updating our city's sustainability and climate plan with the intent to adopt that completed plan as an additional element of our city's comprehensive plan. These things all, of course, can and should fit together, complement one another, and that coordination has been active and will continue as those planning processes proceed. The current land use plan was first created in 2005 and has been amended many times since to kind of keep it current with changing conditions, neighborhood plans, emerging opportunities, and it's been used. Executive Director Rowe suggested we kind of put some numbers to this, and when you think about it, it's been used to guide decisions at more than 200 planning commission meetings. Hard to imagine. But this plan, rest assured, has been in active use, guiding all of, or many of the decisions before the commission. But this current effort of updating the strategic land use plan, we are kind of totally rebuilding it with kind of two major intents. To number one, kind of bring our land use plan in line with national best practices. So we have kind of a contemporary modern plan for the city of St. Louis. And to expand the applicability, awareness, and usability of the plan so that it can be a more actionable tool, a more clear tool, and a tool that is more useful to more groups throughout the city. I think the existing strategic land use plan has been a valuable tool for planning staff. It is my hope and aspiration, and was part of the intentional way we structured this planning process, that the 2025 strategic land use plan will be much more broadly understood, much more broadly used by city departments, by community groups, by the development community, basically by anybody who has a concern or interest in how to create positive change in the city's built environment. So I did want to spend a little bit of time describing kind of the approach we took and why we took it. This has been an intentional process. We kind of started with some specific aspirations that shaped even the request for proposals when we first set it out. And along the way, our consulting team, which you'll be introduced to a couple of members of it in a moment, really helped inform this as well, to make sure that we were learning from how other cities across the country are doing this and kind of give the city of St. Louis a little bit more of the state of the art type of land use plan. So number one, a goal of this update was to create a land use plan that is far more visual and far more accessible than our current land use plan. So that means kind of composing it as a user-friendly structure with clear graphics that express key ideas in the plan. Number two is to define land use designations more clearly. The 2005 SLOOP's 10 land use designations were very helpful, and in some cases kind of left us with some vagueness and ambiguity in terms of their intent. In this update, we've provided quite a bit more clarity and detail in the new designations that are part of the draft plan. 3, that the land use plan should be positive rather than reactive in nature. Part of that by communicating with what we do want to see, not just what we don't want. So we have some level of way to react, but to proactively communicate what we do want to see and why. Number 4, to really think about this land use plan as building a foundation for the zoning code. So designing designations that can align with future zoning districts, and for this process to lay out a strategy for drafting of the updated zoning code. And a kind of draft technical memo with some of those thoughts has been shared with commissioners that will be presented at a future meeting. Number 5, to emphasize form and not just use. I think a lot of the types of ways we might want to shape development are not just about, should this be residential, should this be commercial, should this be a restaurant, should this be an office? It's really about kind of the character and quality of the physical place that we're making. So we've shifted to one that an approach in this plan that's more focused on design and form and urban structure to assist with that. That will, I think, become more clear as we present the plan. The designations also generally permit mixed uses as a rule rather than an exception. Number 7, to actively promote better built and urban form. I suppose this is a different way of saying kind of how we redesigned some of these designations, but taking a really form-forward approach to give the city the tools it needs to express what we are trying to achieve, to address density and design, and in the plan itself, establish some basic form standards and guidelines. And then number 9, to more in this land use plan, even though the sustainability and climate plan is in development, to really think about environmental sustainability and climate risk in a more kind of proactive and complete way. So kind of with those 9 principles and ways of thinking about this, we now have a draft 2025 strategic land use plan. And here is the map from that plan. Though, as commissioners know and members of the public who have spent time reviewing the draft, there's quite a bit more than just the map in this plan. I think that is one of its strengths and one of the ways we'll be able to get more out of this plan. It has been quite a process, and we want to share and review some of that with the commission tonight. We're not going to detail each and every part of this process, but I think understanding kind of the work that went into this and who was involved in the decisions in the plan making process is an important way of understanding the draft that's before you today. So with that, I'll invite colleague Liz Kramer with Public Design Bureau, a member of the consulting team that helped lead community engagement, to share a little bit more about the community engagement that was part of the process.
Great. Thank you so much, Miriam. As Miriam mentioned, I'm Liz Kramer with Public Design Bureau. We helped lead the community engagement. And one thing that was very different about this process than the past loop is that there was extensive community engagement in a wide range of different forms in venues all across the city, virtual and in person, formal and informal. And this plan was really truly developed with the people who care deeply about St. Louis. And this is what they want to see. So I want to give you a really quick overview. One important part of this process is that we had a resident steering committee. You'll meet some of them tonight. We have one in the room and a number on Zoom joining us. They were really an integral part of the planning team. They provided guidance and feedback on the process, on the way that we handled community engagement, on the way that we framed really tough and sensitive topics to the public, and on the plan as a whole. So they started with us in November of 2023, and they're here today. We also had 3 technical advisory groups known as the working groups. So those groups are made up of organizational partners as well as city staff members, and they played a really integral role in advising the plan and ensuring that it's implementable. So they were particularly important in the allied policy section that is at the end of the document, where we detail what are the things that it takes to bring this plan to life. And they helped us really think through, how does this plan align with all of the other ongoing work that's happening in the city? I think you will hear from a couple of working group members tonight as well. Outside of those formal committee structures, we also had extensive engagement with the general public all across the city. And I really want to express gratitude on behalf of our team and the Planning and Urban Design Agency to the many, many members of the public who spent time with us in these settings. And a couple of them are here today for another round of hanging out with us. So we're really, really grateful for that. This process of public engagement was really iterative. I'm not going to go into detail of each of the rounds. There's a lot in the document that covers this. But in each of those phases, we brought back information that we learned from the public. We brought back information that came from existing conditions. We brought new drafts. And we really proactively sought feedback from the public so that they could see the way that their voices were impacting and shaping what this future of land use looks like. So that started asking questions like what works well, what has potential in St. Louis. And by the time we got to last summer, we were looking at very detailed maps of specific neighborhoods and thinking through how would these different designations apply in St. Louis. A really important part of this process, which I think will really help us set up the zoning code overhaul, was sharing information. I think as most planning commissioners know, when we started this process, basically the only people who knew what the SLOOP was the planning commission, the PDA staff, and the zoning section. So now we have at least over 1,000 more people who know what the SLOOP is and what it does. So that happened through things like the SLOOP Scoop newsletters, which were widely distributed across the city. We also had an extensive social media presence with more than 1,000 followers, where we shared not only the events and ways to be involved, but also the information we were learning along the way. So as Miriam mentioned, the SLOOP document is really made to be engaging and interactive. And in that document, you'll see the quotes and stories that serve as examples of the themes that we heard from the public, from residents and from other stakeholders. Throughout our city, there are so many things that we do agree on, and there's also a lot of things that we don't agree on. So as we made decisions throughout this process, the team really weighed not just public input, but also the existing conditions, the regional trends, and the constraints of the reality of land use and planning and how we make decisions in the city. So the plan that you have before you today that you're considering is really about balancing all of those perspectives and being realistic about our current and our potential for our future. So I'm going to hand it over to Dan to actually talk about the plan itself and how it's structured.
Great, thank you, Liz. Thanks, Miriam. That process slide, I've seen that so many times now, and it's been fun to watch it move so slowly towards the end. It's a little bittersweet. It's been such a pleasure to work with this team who has really been outstanding. So let's see. My name is Dan Ndioka, and I'm with Interborough, and we had the pleasure of leading this process. So I'm going to give just a kind of overview of the document that you all have on your desks, so you all had a chance to look at it. Some of you are looking at it right now. But I want to go through a couple of the core and a couple of additional elements, share a little bit about how these can and will be used. I mean, even looking at this table of contents, you get some sense of why the SLOOP needed to be updated. So a lot of the things that you see here, for example, process around engagement, existing conditions analysis, allied strategy recommendations, these were things that were not part of the 2005 SLOOP. We begin with an introduction that covers a lot of the content actually that Miriam just took you through about what a SLOOP is and what it can do for the city. Says a little bit more about why the SLOOP needed to be updated. It goes on to talk about 5 key qualities. These are key qualities of the SLOOP. Presented these to you in detail last time we met and emphasized them in our SLOOP Scoop 3. That's the yellow one. So I'm not going to go through them in detail here. The vision and the goals. This is really, really critical. This is one of the reasons why we did so much engagement. These help set the intention to residents, city staff, developers, business owners, and more. So want to have a very clear vision and a very clear set of goals. We spent a lot of time and a lot of conversations making sure we had a clear vision and goals, and then making sure that our recommendations followed them. A little bit like a contract, right? So we have 3 main goals, right? And we organized the words that we heard most often from the steering committee, from engagement, from the working groups: equity, growth, and thriving. So we organized our goals around these three themes. Vision 3, equitable. And equitable St. Louis is one where there's intentional effort to improve conditions for people and places harmed and marginalized by past and current policies and practices. Vision theme growing. A growing St. Louis is one where diversity of people, institutions, and businesses want to stay to St. Louis and stay here. 3, thriving. Thriving St. Louis is one where all the people, institutions, and businesses have what they need to flourish, succeed, and be part of a strong community. Those are all 3 goals under the larger vision, which is that St. Louis will be a city that is equitable, thriving, and growing to the benefit of all current and future residents. By moving towards this vision, St. Louis will affirm its role as the economic and cultural heart of the region for generations to come. So we also have, so you just heard some general goals, but we also had wanted to show our intentions behind the map, what we were looking to achieve by this map that you all are looking at now. So for example, we wanted to ensure that we connected north, central, and southern parts of the city. We wanted to ensure opportunities for investment that address economic inequity. We want to connect areas of the city that have been disconnected. Emphasize assets like parks, campuses, and cultural anchors. So these are a couple themes under the growing goal. We want to celebrate urban form and shape of the historic city, encourage growth that can be resilient and responsive to our changing climate, connect to the Mississippi River. And then under thriving, we want to support greater walkability within neighborhoods to serve residents, enable and encourage people to take transit, bike, and walk across the city, allow for a greater mix of uses across the whole city, and support and sustain places for economic activity. Okay, so let's take a look at the map. So this is viewable as a big fold out. After the SLOOP is adopted, we'll have an interactive version. So that'll allow people to click on it and click on specific parcels to understand not only land use, but things like zoning and historic districts as well. The map, just for readability's sake, that you're looking at isn't broken down by parcel. It's just really at the block scale, but there is a designation. We did designations for each parcel. So when you click on that interactive map, you'll be able to see what the land use is for particular parcels. So in the SLOOP, you'll obviously find a lot of detail about the different types of designations. This is just a kind of composite of all the different spreads that talk about these new designations that we introduced. They've been completely reworked. I think y'all know that by now. So say goodbye to BITA, BIPA, Ross PETA, and all the other land use designations from 2005, and say hello to nodes, corridors, and neighborhoods. So we took a really structural form-forward approach here, as Miriam suggested earlier. So we're not going to go through these designations in detail. We did that last time. But remember that these designations and their descriptions and drawings are a really important part of what y'all will consider when evaluating if a proposal, say for redevelopment or rezoning, is in alignment with the SLOOP. Residents or developers might also use these designations to determine where would be a good place for their ideas. Also, in the future, when neighborhoods complete a neighborhood plan, they could refer to these designations as to kind of set a vision for what they want their neighborhood to be like, helping them to determine what the future trajectory of the neighborhood could be like. So again, don't want to go into detail about all the designations, but I did want to just give it a kind of anatomy of one of the designation chapters. So this is the one looking at corridors. And so each designation has a lot of information about it, including an explanation of the designation and why it matters, drawings of current typical conditions, tables that give an overview of what is encouraged and discouraged, maps showing where these designations are applied, and examples of how these designations change or shift the aspirations for areas across St. Louis. So this gives you a sense. So there's all kinds, even more detailed information. So corridors, for example, is one of the designations that is organized into levels of intensity: low, medium, high intensity. Intensity really having to do with the form of the buildings in the area. Also, though, how the buildings relate to the street. So when you take a look at the specifics of a designation, you can really see the detailed descriptions, including what is encouraged, what isn't encouraged. See that in the upper right. So if you want to build something, you should have a better sense of what would fit into this particular area. There's also a little drawing here, which isn't so clear in this screen, but can refer to give you a sense of what we aspire to. And finally, the designations have these kind of renderings that help us imagine what an area like this might look like in 2050, 25 years in the future. So while those are the kind of core elements of the sloop, there are a few other important things in the document, including background about the process of creating the sloop. You just heard a lot about that from Liz, who's been involved, et cetera. You also have an extensive existing conditions analysis. This is something that was not part of the previous sloop. And so we took a lot of pains to do a rigorous analysis of St. Louis today, but also do our best to explain how the plan is responding to the analysis. So you always see these black boxes here that say exactly why, what this data means, and how did it influence what we ended up recommending in the plan. We also, as Mira mentioned, the sloop, can't do everything. So these strategies that you're looking at here are kind of allied policy proposals or strategy recommendations, and they complement the more regulatory components of the sloop to support the implementation of the visions and the goals. So they have specific efforts tied to them. So policies, practices, or changes that could bring the strategy to life. There are a lot of them, as you probably have noticed. So this is just an anatomy of all the actions, policy actions and recommendations under the growing theme, just as an example. And in the document, we really did our best to show case studies from other cities, and include quotes from engagement that speak to why we might be recommending this in the first place. Okay, so these strategies are really a reference guide for city staff, elected officials, partner organizations, and residents who want to see the vision of the sloop come to life. This section of the document points to things we can all work towards to support St. Louis to be a city that is equitable, thriving, and growing to the benefit of all current and future residents, to go back to the overall vision. So again, back to the table of contents, lots of new stuff here. When the sloop is implemented, so it'll be available, and even to an extent now, it's going to be available in a variety of different formats and location. So just to review, there's a full document. That's this 400+ page thing. There's a sloop essentials. So that's like a 40-page book, almost like the Cliff Notes to the document. And that's going to come with a fold-out map, similar to the one that you're looking at there, though it'll fit a little more elegantly into the document. And then, as mentioned earlier, there's a digital parcel map that people can go in and click on and find all the information they would ever want. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Miriam.
We've made mention of the steering committee a couple of times tonight because they really were an important part of the process, really part of the planning team. It's how we envision their role, helping us make some kind of tough decisions along the way. And they did, they really did. So we actually have a few members of the steering committee here with us tonight, either here in the room or on Zoom. And there were a couple of members who could not attend this evening, but they sent us some videos to share some brief remarks. And so we'll play those videos here in a moment. But before we get to the videos, I want to invite, I mean, this is really in no particular order, so this is just how I have folks listed on our run of show. Bob, if you want to kick us off. All right, so Bob Sforza, member of the steering committee.
Good evening. My name is Bob Sforza, and over the past 16 months or so, I've had the honor and the pleasure of taking part in the steering committee that, along with the thousands of other voices involved in shaping this plan, have worked steadfast in dreaming and debating the type of future we hope to build for our great city. Before I express my support for this plan, I must first say thank you to the entire planning team, those that work for and on behalf of the city of St. Louis and its people, the support from our subject matter experts, and to the countless residents who shared their visions and hopes for the possibilities of a St. Louis that is fundamentally good, and as the plan describes, one which is equitable, growing, and thriving. Far too often across this country, including here in St. Louis, as we're all painfully aware, the mechanisms of city planning have excluded and at times intentionally harmed our fellow neighbors, particularly communities of color, impact still being felt today. Make no mistake, times have changed, and with this plan, we have the opportunity to heal the wounds of the past, to bring communities closer together instead of divide them, to reorient the foundations of our built environment towards an inclusive and optimistic future for the St. Louisans today and for the St. Louisans of tomorrow. To get specific, I'm excited about this plan's ability to help bridge the divide and disparities between neighborhoods, not just north and south, but across the city, by prioritizing the types of land use that enable points of connection through corridors and nodes, while still maintaining the character of our neighborhoods and our rich architectural history. I'm excited that this is an urban plan, one that encourages development without displacement, and one that, with allied strategies, can dramatically improve the transportation realities and climate resiliency of our city. And lastly, I'm excited that our city and the broader Gateway region are choosing to build on the positive momentum before us and before you now with the 2025 Strategic Land Use Plan, a gateway to the future. Thank you all for your time and for your consideration. And for those of you with us in person, please stay safe on the roads, get home safely. Thank you.
I believe online are now Kasimu Taylor.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Kasimu, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Am I ready to go?
Yes, yes, feel
All right.
free. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to, first off, just thank the planning committee for having the steering committee involved in the process. Growing up in North City, and seeing the changes in my neighborhood over the years. I live in South City now, but we moved to my neighborhood in '77, and just seeing the changes over the years. As a kid, I would always wonder, like, why certain things were happening in my neighborhood that weren't happening in other neighborhoods, and so when the opportunity came up to be involved in the process of kind of creating a better plan for the city moving forward, it was an honor to me to be a part of the process. Learned a lot of things about the behind the scenes stuff that I had no idea about. There's so much planning that goes into a lot of the development in the city. I do want to say that I really hope that this plan can change some of the things that really, and I expressed some of these things to the planning committee that really kind of bother me over the past, just over my life living in St. Louis, just seeing the divide of resources. And I just really hope that as this plan is laid out, that it doesn't become just a document that's on paper. I hope that it becomes a living, breathing thing, and that the powers that be go to for guidance in making the right decisions as far as making this city a world-class place. I've been to most of the major cities in this country, and I feel like St. Louis has those intangible things that can take it to the level of those other places, but we just need to like just have believe in ourselves here and just like use our resources here and elevate the things that we already have here to become like the best St. Louis that this city can be. And that's all I got. I thank you all for having us here tonight, and yeah, definitely be safe on the roads.
So much.
Thanks, Kasimu. I should say, I think another really important role that our steering committee members played, Kasimu very much included, was holding us accountable in terms of how we expressed through the plan the kind of goals that were set by community engagement. As you can imagine, we didn't always get that right first try, and the steering committee really helped us make sure we got it right in the next try. I believe also online now is Sapna Bhakta. Do you want to go ahead?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, can you see me?
Yes.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you to all the people that helped with this plan and those who are listening now. Throughout this journey, I became more familiar with St. Louis than I ever realized. I've been a resident here for about 10 years now, and I come from Toronto, so a very large city coming to a very smaller big city. The city revealed itself to be much larger than I thought. Not only did it deepen my understanding of St. Louis, but I also connected with individuals who genuinely care about this city's future. This experience filled me with more hope than I anticipated. During the development of this plan, I recognized the importance of voicing our neighborhood's needs. It's crucial to preserve what we currently have that work while also creating new essential spaces. I wholeheartedly support the adoption of this plan because as residents, we require a modern approach that resonates with both current and future inhabitants. Embracing change means adapting to the needs of those who are here today. And I appreciate you guys for listening. And you guys can see how much I love St. Louis that I drew it a whole map on my kitchen wall. Thank you.
Applause for the map. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sapna.
Of course.
So like I mentioned, there are also two steering committee members who wanted to share some remarks, but like couldn't, they just had a conflict for tonight. So they sent a couple of videos, which we'll play for you. The first video is from Deneen Vaughn, and you'll hear she, oh no, the first video is from Kelly McGowan.
Hi, good evening, planning commissioners and everyone else that's in the space. My name is Kelly McGowan. I had the pleasure of serving as one of the SLOOP steering committee members. And as my family says, I be doing too much, which is why, unfortunately, I cannot deliver my thoughts to you all in real time. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to provide my thoughts here very briefly. So for me, I think what would be most beneficial for community moving forward is that, again, we continue this conversation. I think having the engagements and having the workshops and having the focus groups and all of these different conversations, I think it really planted a seed, especially with some of the young people at SLAPE that participated in a workshop. I think it really planted the seed for residents to see that, okay, yes, I can work collaboratively with my city towards, again, what does a vision for a thriving and equitable and a growing city, what does that feel like and what does that look like? And I hope that obviously this plan has to be adopted, right, by you all. But once that happens, I hope we continue to push things forward to make sure we are empowering residents. We're empowering neighborhood groups and associations. We're empowering community-based organizations, right? We're empowering folks with various agencies within the city of St. Louis to make sure that we move beyond this plan to see these recommendations and to see these things realized through small P and big P policy change. So those are my 2 cents. Appreciate the opportunity and take care. Peace.
And our final video is from Deneen. And so you're going to hear her reference the 1947 comprehensive plan as kind of a historical point of comparison. And of course, even though the sloop we're updating today was a 2005 document, I do think kind of what we're doing with the land use plan and the transportation mobility plan and the sustainability climate plan is kind of fully building out that more holistic, comprehensive plan to kind of take us into the future. So with that, play Deneen.
The strategic land use plan keeps the guesswork out of knowing what St. Louis residents and stakeholders long for, need, and hope for the future of St. Louis. This document proves a huge point. There is a tremendous amount of hope for the future of St. Louis. The strategic land use plan has been carefully and thoughtfully put together with a hope-filled future in mind. It's been almost 80 years since a comprehensive document to shape investment and change in St. Louis was created. As many of us are aware, 80 years ago, the plan did not have all of St. Louis in mind. The new strategic land use plan, however, has drawn diverse people of many walks of life in St. Louis to capture their thoughts, hopes, and dreams to influence a more equitable, growing, developing St. Louis for the benefit of the entire St. Louis city. I appreciate the opportunity to serve on the Strategic Land Use Planning Committee with my fellow dedicated committee members. I am looking forward to seeing the fruit of what we have all done together for the future of this great city. My name is Deneen Vaughn, and I support the adoption of the Strategic Land Use Plan. Thank you.
I don't know if we mentioned it tonight, but the steering committee was formed through kind of an application process and then kind of like a random selection process. And I think you can kind of see that we sort of struck gold with our committee. I just want the commissioners and the public to know, it was a random process, and the committee members we had, they really stuck it out with us, worked with us, and I just feel very fortunate to have had that group of people to work with and guide us along the way. I think it should affirm us all that this kind of random selection of engaged residents in our city gets us such great people at the table. I think that's something I've learned in this process. There's so many people who care about the future of the city, and we're lucky to have them and to work with them. So there will be a public hearing here in a minute, but before we get into that, I just wanted to review some of the written comment, summarize some of the written comment that we've received. Commissioners have gotten it all, and for the public and for the public record, just want to summarize it as part of the presentation, as well as it's in the draft resolution as well. So we did all of the kind of legally required posting of physical and kind of online copies and notices for the hearing, and we did a lot more. So we had it in 5 locations. We got it up on the project website, the city website, and we really pushed it out via Instagram and email. And we had a webinar to kind of walk people through the plan, which we posted on YouTube. And we've accepted feedback lots of different ways. We had an online survey, by email, phone number, and then kind of other written, like in-person comment. We've received 20 comments or 20 individual commenters, 20 distinct comments from those commenters, and we are recommending some changes based on those comments. At a summary level here, though I do have kind of all of the details here for reference, should we want to refer to that, but of the comments, there are kind of 6 types of comments. The first categories are general comments of support, like, hey, this is great, let's go for it. We love the urban character of this proposed plan. And some people noted special appreciation for the process. There are some comments that were seeking clarity on the details of the designations and how they're applied on the map. In some cases, those did spark some thoughts for us about how to better and more explicitly communicate some of the intentions within the designation. So that shaped some of our recommended updates. there was a category of plans that James on our team, I think aptly characterizes like go further, do more as pertains to like height and density. And I'll say in most cases, we actually started there with the plan, but for several reasons, including kind of alignment with other preservation policy, but also kind of neighborhood preference. As we did all of these workshops, we sort of reined it back in a little bit, but there were a couple of comments that brought our attention back to some specific places. And I do think increasing intensity in some of those places does make sense. So that is part of the recommended change. There were some comments of concern about the plan, either in kind of its detail that it's hard to navigate. One person didn't like the kind of design elements of the plan and the incorporation of as many graphics or like quote bubbles throughout the plan. I will say that many of those were kind of intentional choices shaped in partnership with the steering committee to have kind of a tone of a document that matched the tone and spirit of the process and to have a human document. And I think we had some ideas about how to improve the usability of the plan with a more detailed table of contents, so it's a little bit more navigable. And so we're recommending some changes there, but we're not recommending a redesign of the document. And I think also the executive summary provides I think as Dan put it, like a Cliff Notes version that should hopefully make some of the essentials very accessible. There were some comments that recommended very specific, like parcel level changes to the map. Some of those comments, I think, I'll start by saying some of those comments identified things that we are recommending to change. And some comments, I think, were misinterpreting or reading some of the details of the designations, maybe look kind of just at the map without reading the details of the designations, but we did evaluate each and every one of these and discuss them as a planning team. And then the final category are some kind of refinements or kind of modest additions to the allied strategy recommendations. Got some specific feedback from people involved in different parts of the development process who had some ideas about ways to kind of bump up some messages that should be included in these proposed strategies so that they're kind of fully exhaustive and recognize all of the challenges. So we are recommending changes. Those are outlined in the exhibit. And there was one more identified today that we are also recommending in these slides. I've kind of made it a blue and italic to make sure we don't miss it, but some map corrections, some general kind of document text changes. We will be doing a kind of update to page number references. It's kind of a few like word choice and syntax and narrative flow things we'll be correcting as we go. Little diagrammatic mistakes or like, hey, that image isn't quite right. So there is a category of sort of like cleanup stuff that we will be doing, but I wouldn't describe those as substantive changes. And then some of the changes were to the allied strategy recommendations that we as planning staff are recommending based on public comment. So like I mentioned, we have all of this here for reference, but we're not going to present that in bleeding detail until that is needed. With that, I'll turn it back to Chair Boas.
Right, and before I open the public meeting, I've got two things I want to do. First, I couldn't help but want to comment on the steering committee. Wow, what an impressive bunch of people. I just really wanted to thank you, and I think on behalf of all the commissioners, for the time that you have invested, the thought, the passion, the energy, and likewise to the residents who participate in all the planning meetings. Without that help, without that knowledge, without that commitment, we could not have produced such a good document. And I just want to thank you all. And I have to again kind of say what Miriam said is, wow, this is by a random selection. What a great pool of applicants we must have had. Thank you so much. Next thing I need to do before we open the public meeting is just remind anyone online that if you would like to speak, you'll need to put your name in the chat, and then we'll call on you at that time. Anyone who does want to speak will get 2 minutes to speak, and I'll call on you in order so you'll know when it's your turn. I think everyone in the room has been given that opportunity already. Could I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
All right, second.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Commissioner Hubman, seconded by Commissioner Banton. We'll now open the public meeting. Oh, sorry. We need a vote.
Previous roll.
Thank you. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing no objections, we'd like to open the public meeting. Shall I start with the names in the room? Okay, all right. And forgive me for my pronunciation of names. First, Hogan Zumeski? Zumsky. Thank you for being here. All right, next we have one of our steering committee members, Bob Sforza.
Already said my piece.
Oh, already said your piece. All right. And last, Emily Stava.
I am Emily Stava. This may be a superfluous comment because I don't have anything but positive things to say, and a lot of them have already been said, but I've lived here for about 10 years. I've been in Skinker de Bolivar, I've been in Tower Grove South, I've been in the Grove, I've been in Tower Grove East. I've been to several public input type settings, and I just want to say that this was the most overwhelmingly positive experience of any of those. That's the first thing. I'm so impressed by the way this was run and by all of the input that was taken in and how we all managed to do that in a constructive way because of how it was led, instead of getting caught up in details and screaming past each other about things that aren't really related, like what color a development is going to be or what the material of the facade will be, instead of looking at what it's going to bring into our communities and do for us with our urban goals. The other thing is I was really impressed by the democratization of the input. A lot of hearings like this are on weeknights at 5 or 6 p.m. And I'm lucky enough to be able to come at that time if I want to, but a lot of people aren't. So the number of events and the diverse ways in which they collected input was really impressive. So that being said, I think it would be a waste if as a city we didn't use all of this work to move forward together. I hope that this document can become useful at public hearings like this, at meetings like this in the future, and that we don't devolve so much into screaming past each other about what color things are, because I've seen that happen. And when it's something that's close to you and specific that you see happening, that you're afraid of for some reason, I understand how that can happen, but it does affect our city as a whole, whether people can move here, whether the people who are here can stay here, and whether it remains affordable and pleasant to do so. So I just wanted to say nothing but positive things.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then for the online comments? We have a large number of people online, so thank you for being here just to listen. All right, so at this point, with no further comments, we'll go ahead and close the public meeting. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all right, we have a motion and a second.
Previous roll.
Thank you. Any objections to previous roll? Hearing none, the meeting is now closed. All right, now we'll move to commissioner questions and discussion. Let's go ahead and go in the order of the names that I have. We'll start with Alderwoman Jameen Clark-Hubbard, please. Any questions, comments?
I don't want to go into all of my questions right now. I don't know if that's working or not. I don't want to go into all of my questions right now. Right now, I'm just really full from the public comment. You have to know that that is a breath of fresh air from the position I sit in. And here, I'm encouraged by the fact that people see this as a way for our city to move forward together. So thank you all for being here this evening and giving your comments. I'm excited for this work. You all, many people here know that there are conversations going on as we speak about zoning and land use and work that has been done and continues to get done, and that we can now marry with this work, hopefully, and bring us again together to move forward. So I just thank everyone that was involved, from the public, Miriam, and the planning commission, and all the work that was been done before, and just continue to stand in support of us carrying it forward.
Thanks so much. All right, Commissioner Banton, you want to go next?
Yes, thank you. To Dan and Liz and the planning staff and all the steering committee members and the public, want to echo everything that's been said so far. It's been a refreshing thing to see. Normally I'm the guy with all the questions at these things, but tonight I just have a couple of comments. I want to first say thank you. And I want to always pump up our city for doing innovative new things that, you know, are, as Miriam said, state of the art. I think, you know, this is something that can really be championed throughout the US and probably the world as a leading example of a great strategic land use plan. So like to always find opportunities to toot our own horn here in St. Louis. And I think that that's great. And it's also really exciting that there are these other sort of co-plans advancing and zoning reforms happening in conjunction with the adoption of this plan. It's really an exciting time to be in the city of St. Louis, to be a resident, and hopefully folks will see that and move here and want to continue to live here and see all the great things that are happening in the city. So I appreciate the consultants for bearing with us this whole time and taking an extra month to take time to listen to all of our concerns and comments and hearing all of the iterative process and how the document has changed throughout all the public commentary and our commentary. And of course, with a citywide document like this, it's impossible to satisfy everyone 100%, but I think it's been clear that even tonight with some of these recommended changes, that this is something that planning staff has listened to very intently. All of the comments that have been heard, and I think it's a wonderful achievement. So congratulations, everyone.
Thank you so much. All right, next, Commissioner Bradley.
So no questions. I think everybody has said this, and Commissioner Banton just did a great job making this comment. I just want to echo, thank you for the outstanding work. I am very impressed, particularly by the enthusiasm and participation of the steering committee members. Obviously, you know, some people get paid to do this, others don't. And the people who volunteer their time and come and participate and are so excited about this really make this an outstanding plan. So thank you for doing that. St. Louis is a great place, and completely agree with what Commissioner Banton said. This is a model plan that can be used around the country, around the world. And just thank you so much for all your good work.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next, Commissioner Fowler.
Yes, I don't want to echo an echo that's echoed an echo, but I just want to say thanks to all the you know, public committee members. You guys did a great job. Lots of help there. Takes a lot of time and effort. I know you're not getting paid, so you know it's your free time. So thanks guys for doing that. We really need people like you in this community, in St. Louis. So thanks for that. Thanks for the professionals, the consultants, staff. The only thing that I kind of want to clarify, because it was a comment that came up a couple different places. Miriam, you can dovetail off of this, but there's a comment in general that said, we don't need the fluff, or this is a lot of documentation, where's the one sheeter that I can use? And myself personally, civil engineer professionally, so I actually use this over the last kind of month or whatever, couple weeks to look at projects that we do. And there's a couple different deliverables you have here. You have like, you know, this is the Bible, but then you also have these cliff notes. And I think we're doing a great job of providing those different pieces so that if you're a developer and you want to quickly look, interactive map's going to be out there so you can look at the parcels. You don't have to go through this huge thing. Yes, this is here to help you dig down into what is a core, like what do we want a corridor to look like? Oh, it's high intensity. So just wanted to kind of talk about that again, because I know that's something that some people kind of commented on. It's too much. This also paints the picture of why we're here and how we got here, which previous plans did not. And I think some people would look at that and say it's not equitable. And who made these decisions? Where was the input? So sorry, try to keep it brief, but appreciation, lived example of looking through this. I think James a couple weeks ago or a meeting ago also used this as an example too with a previous matter. So it's very useful. Thanks. I feel like I'm rambling, but thanks guys.
Thank you so much. All right, next, Commissioner Garmendia.
No questions again. I just wanted to reiterate the importance of the quality of the work that was of this work product. It when you need it, this kind of document is a compilation of so much of community sentiment, and it's a really valuable tool when we're trying to make decisions on what development to adopt or accept and which to reject. And having a document like this that accurately reflects the community, has the legitimacy of that's something that really helps Board of Aldermen, helps the Planning Commission when we come time to, when there is a tough decision before us. So the quality of the work that went into this this document is going to have dividends many years to come. This is now this could be a 20-year document, and so I'm glad we made the investment as a city to undertake this, and thanks to all the planning staff that and community members who contributed their time to it.
Thank you so much. Next, Commissioner Hudman.
Yeah, again, just remarkable all the time that everybody put in, volunteer. Also, I feel compelled to just call out staff and the planning department for investing in such a thorough, deliberate process. And I'm thinking of this in, at a time when equity and sustainability are literally under attack, a very defensible and durable product here. I also think about some of the concurrent work East West Gateway has been doing with, say, MoDOT, with other documents. I'm excited in a wonkish kind of way about future work in some of these corridors. This will actually really help us do some of the work that we love to do. So I appreciate it, and I really look forward to putting it to use.
Thank you. Commissioner Kian.
I'm a buzzkill. I have a question.
Accept a question.
I guess my question, to build off of what Commissioner Hubman just brought up on how equity and diversity is being attacked. My question to Miriam or Liz and Dan, you guys are welcome to answer it too, is not necessarily around this map and the intensities. I'm talking more about allied strategies. Do you all imagine that we're going to have to make any sort of text amendment changes in the near future based on not anything necessarily only federal, but I'm thinking about things like how we referred to the qualified census tracts. So if hypothetically we're to change to opportunity zones or something different, is that something that we need to come in and update any part of the SLOOP to reflect that? Or how SLDC uses an EGI or Economic Justice Index indicator, would any of that need to change? Because we refer to it so much throughout the strategy section.
Yeah, good question.
I am a buzzkill.
We did try to bake in some of those indices, some of which are kind of dynamic, because I think they're important references in a land use plan like this. So the market value analysis, as an example, is a tool that was just updated and is designed to be frequently updated so we can kind of get a strong picture of the market. I do think that is something where in the commission's annual updates, we should be looking at plan amendments beyond just map amendments to make sure that the document as a complete reference tool kind of remains kind of accurate and precise. But to your question about will we need to amend some of the kind of spirit of it to dial back any of
No, I wouldn't want you to dial it back. It's just more if how we make changes here in the city or what indicators we look at. If you all felt through that process, if it would require us to go in and change any of the allied strategies. I would want to keep the spirit and intent, but it's just more technical question.
Yeah,
I
I do
guess.
think we want to keep the, and I see a couple people lined up to help answer. But just to close my thought, like I think we want to keep the data references current and the kind of core goals and foundation that we're using to make those references those should remain until there's like a very good community-based reason to change.
We can double check this, but I'm pretty sure that at each reference in the allied strategies where we reference to the economic justice or to the qualified census tracts, we use them as example indicators. So we say like the economic justice or the qualified census tracts. So that the idea is that whatever is the most apt data-driven tool at that point in time should be the tool that is used as the reference point. I'm pretty sure we changed every one of those, but if not, we will go through and make sure that that is clear, that the point is to have a solid data-driven tool that is informing the decision, that is based on the principles as opposed to what the tool actually is.
So I'll make one comment that is really just exclamation mark in the last two things that you said, is some of those programs that have a name associated with something that has been from a prior administration. They just said the magic is we need to keep our eye on data that was based on individuals and context in St. Louis that was contributed to that geography of that census tract. And we should keep that, we should keep it updated and not be swayed just because there's a program or a name that gets under attack. It might just be that we cross out.
That was my only question. So I'll go back to not being a buzzkill. No, I think this is amazing product. I've told Dan and Liz to their faces, I think this is one of the best community-driven plans that I've ever seen created. And I'm talking about just in general, not just in St. Louis City. And I think you guys have set an amazing standard with the PDA team on what planning should look like, bringing in an engaged steering committee, doing so much over the top community engagement. When I say over the top, you guys went above and beyond. I know different neighborhood meetings. I know you hosted different like subtopics, so you can try to attract as many people to participate in this. So kudos, echoes, whatever everyone else said before me. I think this is a new standard that we should all amount to. So Scott for the TMP. But no, I think you guys have done great. And I just want to thank all the public that have participated and the steering committee as well for guiding us through this process.
Thank you. Next, Commissioner Miller.
Thank you. As most of you know, I came in late on this process, and I have to say I've been nothing but, I guess, impressed with the work that was done. And I've had some questions and pushback on a few things, but the staff's response has been outstanding. And Don and Miriam, you guys should be really proud of the work you've done. My biggest concern is, where do we go from here? This sets a very high bar. It's a high standard. And, you guys have set yourself up to, we're looking for a lot more as we move forward into the zoning process, because, things I guess they get harder, but I just think we've got a very sound foundation. I know one of the commissioners mentioned, I think Stan mentioned the voluminous work that we have behind the plan, and I'm a little concerned about that in the sense that people can pick things out, but I lean toward the voluminous work. I think that was the right decision, and having that backup in detail will give developers and community members rationale from years to come. So hopefully it is a 20-year document, as one of the commissioners said. So I just want to congratulate the staff, and I'm excited. I think we have a tall order going forward, but I think we have a good foundation. So congratulations.
Thank you. And last, Commissioner Williams.
To go last. So first, I want to echo what all of the other commissioners said. I know you don't want to hear me repeat those things, so start with that. And the only additional point I want to make is I just want to thank the planning team for your ability to make this document a very positive and aspirational document. Even in like the truth telling that you did, it still feels positive. And I appreciate you giving the pages and the time needed to make sure everyone feels heard in the document. So that it is more, is more to it than just land use planning. It's really a storytelling document. And it's an empowerment tool. And I think it'll be used that way in a lot of communities. So I think that's a tall feat to do in a strategic land use plan, but somehow you all did it. And you deserve recognition for that. So thank you. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. And you are not last. We also have Alderman Cone, please.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to listen to everyone's comments this evening, and I'm certainly excited to have the next step in this planning process complete. And just want to thank everyone, particularly all of the citizens that participated in this process as well. It's been a long time coming, and I'm happy that we're finally at this juncture and look forward to integrating it into the work that we do down at City Hall.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That, I believe, any other discussion? No? I guess I'll leave my final comments to just humbly thank the planning staff, our consultant team, and the citizens who've all participated in various ways to make this really great plan happen. All right, do I have a motion to approve?
I want to hold off right for a second before you do that, and appreciate that you're going to do that. I'll have some closing things as the director's report, but one of the things that you've all heard and you've seen at the podium, people thinking and reporting about what we've done, and also thinking and responding to your questions. But the main thing that really has moved me during this last year is things from way back that I was involved in citizen participation, community participation, input. And it really revolves around the steering committee. And when we put out the call for the steering committee and they came in, my word, it was heaven to read them. They would say, I lived here all my life. I want to make sure that we have a positive, direct future, inclusive future. Comments like that in the little narrative. I just moved to the city 3 years ago, and I find it fascinating, and we want to do something. And going through that and then getting the selection of folks that we have, and you've seen them tonight, come with their remarks, thought through, and the reflections on these committee meetings that Liz fueled with some good snacks, including some ice cream sandwiches from a place in Carondelet that are phenomenal. But what was also phenomenal was the input from those community members. They might have got testy with us at times. Hallelujah. We were doing this over time, being partnered with them. And as you heard them make their remarks and say things, let's hope that we do this and it affects policy with a little p and a big P, and that we talk about it being guiding for decision-making for the powers that be. And the things that they brought today, we saw through the whole process. And that is a big thanks, a big piece of thanks. And I want to put out for that to be part of the whole process and for their service for doing this. Thank you all.
All right, finally, could I have a motion to approve the strategic land use plan update? So moved.
Second, Alderman Cone.
Alderman Cone. All right. Should
We have to because change.
Oh, that's right.
Alderman,
Good, thank you.
I'm sorry. Alderman Cone,
Yes.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Oh. I thought that was a question. Sorry.
Commissioner Banton,
Aye.
Commissioner Bradley,
Aye.
Commissioner Fowler,
Aye.
Commissioner Garmendia,
Aye.
Commissioner Keon,
Aye.
Commissioner Hubman, Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Williams, Chair Boaz,
Aye.
Commissioner Williams, can you hear me?
We're gonna ask for point of order. Is the only one that we're waiting to hear from is Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
And if we count all the votes to now, is it unanimous in favor?
Yes.
So to my attorney that sits to my right, we had Commissioner Williams on the screen. I think I heard things about him being positive. Should we interpret that as a vote? All right. So-
He's probably.
I don't think so, Don.
Nice try.
Is he
So,
muted?
not, so, yeah. There are no opposing votes. That's the way. it is.
Okay, and the motion passes with all present voting aye.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much.
Very sophisticated to do it that way, Michelle.
Let's- Can we give the process? So much.
Dan, will you go back to the other colleagues and say that was applause for a plan?
I already did. I'm live streaming it.
All right, now we're ready to
That's
move
a
on.
joke.
Okay. We are ready to move on to the informational items. Any updates on the major planning initiatives?
There are a
Scott?
couple, yeah, and I am realizing I gave you slightly off, but I can, okay, I can coordinate this. So every month we try to give you an update on kind of all of the projects going on and where they are. And because there are a few different plans and planning processes underway. Mike, would you be able to click back to the oh, Mike, it's problem solving and the, oh. Couple more. There we go. Okay, I'm gonna hand it over to Jonathan Roper, City Planning Executive for neighborhood planning. This may or may not.
Oh, okay. Good evening, Chair, and good evening, Commissioners. I am Jonathan Roper, City Planning Executive with the Planning and Urban Design Agency for the City of St. Louis. And congratulations, you just adopted a comprehensive plan, so that's awesome. So this news, actually, give another round of applause for Miriam. I mean, her team, James Fisher too, Don, but really, awesome job. And well, hopefully it rubs off on neighborhood planning more so. Our offices are next to each other, so let's get into it. The Planning Commission and this January approved additional neighborhoods for neighborhood planning. And PDA, as of Monday, put out the city actually, I should say, put out a request for proposals for neighborhood planning consulting services for 11 additional neighborhoods. And those are identified in the purple, green, and blue. So we're looking for consulting services to aid us in developing the plans. These are due March 12th at 3 p.m. and those are submitted to Faith Jones with the City of St. Louis Planning Urban Design Agency. So email is on the screen. So if you're interested, learn more online, but also looking for great candidates for great opportunities. Oh, next slide, please. And neighborhood planning updates for Plan Area 1 and also the Martin Luther King Cultural Corridor. Right now, you can see the pictures on the screen. We had a winter workshop at Colt Brilliant on February 25th, which was really fun evening. We even had, what was it, Garrett's popcorn in Chicago. So that was just tasty. And it was actually just flown in for this occasion, also with the speaker there on the left. We also have the Culture Corridor, who's up to a lot of fun. There's even a coloring page that you see in the middle there. And our next event, well, actually the MLK Culture Corridors event, February 22nd, they're opening a storefront on MLK. It's at 4144 Dr. Martin King Drive, just across the street from the new Tina Turner mural. So be at the storefront there at 10 a.m. There's also a screening of the movie Vision. So a short screening. It's about 12 to 20 minutes or so. About 12 to 20 minutes. Also we're working on visioning goals for the area, as well as trying to wrap up and go through our existing conditions and more about the SOAR survey for the neighborhood. Next slide. Plan area 2, so Walnut Park East, Walnut Park West, and Mark Twain. They recently had their kickoff party at the O'Fallon Park Rec Complex on January 25th. It was a really fun event. They actually turned this into a very well launched party. They actually had a DJ there, and just you can see the Plant STL cupcakes. So the neighborhood really was comfortable, excited, and you can see the boards in the back. And thank you to the mayor's office for being present, and as well as Alderwoman Boyd as well. So and Grace as well for being there too. So thank you very much. And even the character artists to really engage people. So that was really a fun event, but now they're also working to wrap up their existing conditions analysis, and they're also starting visioning sessions as well. And plan area 3, oh, go back one. Plan area 3, Beta North Point, they've had another informational session. Actually, there was one December 10th, but there was also one actually last night as well. So this is just this was that informational session. This was a visioning workshop last night in Baden. So there was also a sustainability tour, and we're trying to sign up more people for the neighborhood planning committee and neighborhood ambassadors. Next slide. And our final planning area is the Project Connect neighborhoods. So they are meeting as a neighborhood planning committee meeting. That's the pictures that you see on the screen there. We are going to initiate shortly a market analysis and start more with the development of plans for the area. And we do expect the adoption date to be a little bit pushed back from, we were talking about May before. So we're looking at a little bit pushed back more into the summertime, but we're making progress with this awesome team here. So yeah. But with that, I'll give it back over to Miriam, unless there's any questions or comments from the commission. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anything that would be appropriate to do? Aaron's. Did you hear that, Commissioner Williams?
Hear you. I didn't hear whatever someone else just said.
If you want to indicate your support for adoption of the plan, feel free to do it.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
So mentioned the sustainability and climate plan update that is underway. A lot's going on here at an upcoming meeting. We're going to have a more thorough update for the commissioners on where this process is, but they're making a lot of great headway with the greenhouse gas inventory and community engagement. So they've been having some focus groups over the last couple of weeks and more through the end of this month with a whole host of different types of kind of specific perspectives or specific geographies in the city, because people do experience sustainability and climate issues differently depending on where they are in the city and the challenges they're exposed to. There is a second community advisory group meeting that was recently held. There are some draft kind of pillars. You can see how those are fitting into the process. So there are some initial draft targets and kind of pillars on top of which they will be building the strategy. There's a core team or sort of an interdepartmental coordinating body that is very involved in this process. We had a meeting earlier this week to discuss some of the early results from the greenhouse gas inventory and look at a kind of early version of the dashboard that's going to be an ongoing resource and reference. And there is a community survey currently live right now. That is the URL to take it. But as you can see in the project timeline, this process is kind of roughly halfway through, and soon at this body, we'll be presenting some updates on how the strategy is coming together and some of the data that's informing that strategy. So lots to look forward to there. And if I didn't say before, I'll say it now. Elijah Russell, the city sustainability director within PDA, is leading this effort. It's very important work. And I think the last planning initiative update to share with you all is the zoning code and map overhaul. We have a team that is working with us, a great interdisciplinary consulting team. We actually held a sort of internal soft kickoff with core members of that team in late January. A lot of walking around the city, talking about, we were kind of joking, zoning tales from across the city, whether that's rezonings or Board of Adjustment agenda items, things like that, to really get our collective minds in these issues as they manifest in kind of specific parts of the city. I mentioned earlier kind of a technical memorandum about how the SLOOP can be used to update the zoning code holistically has been drafted and shared with commissioners. We'll be providing more informational update on that at a coming meeting. But I think one of the things that's really useful about that memo is how to use the SLOOP kind of in this interim period where we have new plan, old code, and a mismatch. And I think they've made us aware of some new tools for how to do that we're going to want to discuss with the commission and just make sure we can really use the plan even while we're updating the zoning code holistically. Right now, we are drafting the engagement plan and detailed project schedule with the team. And here are some fun pictures from our rainy, cold walks. Mary Hart Burton, who's a core part of the project team, wanted it to be known that her rain boots were the best on offer on that rainy day. But yeah, it was a lot of fun just walking around, driving around the city all together. This project will be a full partnership between the planning office and the zoning section of the building division. And the final note here is that the city was awarded nearly $7 million in HUD's new competitive pro housing grant program. And part of that grant is going to assist with enhancing the scope for the zoning code overhaul and kind of having a robust second phase to get us all the way through adoption. So we're fortunate to have received that grant in spite of some of the kind of uncertainty around the federal funding landscape. It was good news, and we're going to be doing everything we can to make great use of those resources. And I think with that, I'll turn it over to, oops.
I was going to say, continuing the buzzkill theme, are those funds in hand, or have we had any grants that have been?
Do you want to address that?
So the pro housing grant that Miriam's referring to, we signed the grant agreement. Does not mean it's in hand. You can tell you have experience. If people can't see Tracy's face, she looked very concerned. But so yeah, we will act as if that project's still moving forward. The federal government, HUD, has not notified us otherwise. And so that's still going through that process. In terms of other federal grants, the mayor's office is actually doing a separate event at Special E&A with the comptroller's office and the president's office right now, discussing the federal landscape and what may or may not happen to cities like St. Louis. And so in terms of answering your question on direct federal impacts, it's still a bit of an unknown, and we're gathering information from our departments to better understand what the federal implications might be.
Thank
Any other questions on any of those updates before the executive director's report?
So eager. Oh, good. One thing I'll just add, Miriam mentioned in the sustainability plan, we're doing an update to our greenhouse gas inventory. We've done them twice in the past. It's one of those things when you have consistency of what you know is in your rearview mirror and what your trends are, it can really help you focus on what to do. So that's a pretty important thing. But the big part of my director's report is what we've done tonight and through the last year of hard work is really a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal about what the effort was, what we're trying to move the needle in a city where planning just was, prior to the original sloop, was quite disjointed and difficult. Sloop broke the ground. This is a huge effort. We've all talked about the effort, the professionalism, the engagement, and the product is fantastic. It's one of the things that's in other cities around the country because it is the legal document and resource for designated land use. And it's an expectation for cities to have so that people come into our city that want to do something. Hey, what's the plan? That's really key. We're in a city that can offer incentives to do certain things. It certainly helps, but it's really important that we now have this legal document. The critical importance is what was just spoke about, the zoning overhaul. I mean, this is an overhaul. We have, you know, in some ways I could say we're going from carbon paper to technology for what we're doing, but the zoning overhaul is needed desperately. And the foundation is, of course, improving systems, improving the ability for things to be viewed, that you see what the requirements are in the zoning is all pretty damn important because it's also what people and neighbors think about in terms of land use. So it's a really big deal. We're really impressed with the team and Dan is part of the team. We're impressed with the team. We're impressed with their structure of also having some certain legal people that's familiar with Missouri law, talented consultants in the topics. And then also, I call it, they have 3 advisors to the whole process that have been in my role across the country that we can bounce things off to help get zoning up to the most up-to-date method that we can do and have it blessed and acted by ordinance. And that's a really big thing. Can't tell you how big it is that we could not do it as well as we need to do it if we didn't have the strategic land use plan. And of course, thanks to everybody, the staff, the committee, the volunteers, the working groups. And for the committee, for the steering committee, we still have the consultants engaged in some efforts in St. Louis. So they will be back. And I will host a party for our steering committee members and our consultants when the springtime weather comes. And that's a promise. And that's a thankfulness for how, as you heard, other people just learning about it tonight. Appreciate that. Next month's agenda is pretty full. There's some follow-up we'll do about, you know, the sloop adoption. There's a preservation board appeal. And it's also the month where we're from the work that we've done that we'll be talking about priorities for the next year. So those are key things. And then I want to add one more thing is that Marion and I are meeting in the morning with Ryan McCreor of the Arts of Park Foundation to have a discussion with him about the content and timing that we can get from him for an update on the Chapter 99 processes and the foundation's request for development proposals from the Millennium Motel site. We'll be meeting with that tomorrow with him. I made mention that the next agenda is pretty full. We'll be talking about some ways that he might be able to communicate with the Planning Commission and distribute it and get that out prior to next month's meeting But we wanted to tell you that we'll be meeting with them tomorrow and then having a chance to inform you. So big deal, folks. Thanks for everybody. And what we're really getting to do, bring planning attention to our citizens, ourselves, and for people that come visit or want to invest here. Big deal. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, that concludes our business. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. All right, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being here, for all your work, and be safe going home.
We're gonna take a picture with the steering committee.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. What's his name?